in the flesh, how it came about?
Yeah, sure. I was sort of working, it was about 2007, and I was up late, and I was, it says I'm a big horror genre fan, and a big zombie fan, and I was just watching a typical zombie movie, you know, and it was a typical zombie movie where you sort of like, you had a bunch of survivors, and they had to go to a certain place, and they were kind of going around and blasting all these zombies away, and they were doing it in such a sort of macho, lethal way that I started feeling really sorry for the zombies. And there was this young lad who was a zombie, and he got blown away by the heroes, and I was like, oh God, you know, that young lad is someone's son, and he's someone's mother, and someone's, maybe someone, you know, he's got a sister somewhere. And I was like, oh, you know, surely they could do something with him. You know, it didn't have to blow him away. You could, like, you know, shoot him in the leg and cut him off and treat him, you know. And because I was like, well, what would really happen? You know, the scientists would always be trying to find a cure or manage the undead in my head. And I was working, like I said, I was working on a different idea, and it was about a young lad who has a psychotic episode, and he does something in his community. A horrible thing in his community, and he you know, he gets treated, he goes into therapy, gets medicated, and then he has to kind of come back into his real community after doing this horrible thing. And it was a bit too on the nose, I was a bit stuck with it was a bit too preachy, and then when I was watching the zombie movie, I was like, oh, what if the young man who had committed this psychotic episode, maybe he hasn't had a psychotic episode, maybe he's come back as a zombie, and he's kind of got caught, he's got treated by this new medication that they've invented, and then he's better, but he's going to have to go back to his family and, yeah, this community that hates and fears them, yeah.
And could you just, before I ask Johnny, and the first thing is what's attracted you to the script, to the work, is how did you just plot your way through that? Because there's a really strong, it's not just the kind of landscape of raw,
Yeah.
kind of where Kieran is, how he sort of grew up, what's happened to him, and the language of the piece.
Yeah, well, I think with one of these shows you've got to get the backstory really, really right, and I took a lot of time kind of thinking about the world and thinking about how what's really happened, not in the movie version of the zombie apocalypse, but what's really happened in the real version in Britain, and what's happened kind of, you know, you always have like zombie movies which are like, this is the zombie apocalypse, or 28 days later, and I was like, well, what's happened 4 years later, and what's happened with the, you know, in the medicated state, and I just kind of took it from there really, and then, you know, because we always want to be very real with it, so it's like, how would you really feel, you know, being a PBS sufferer and going, God, you know, because Kieran, he's just kind of, he's left, you know, he's really left people in the lurch, his family, you know, and it's like, well, how would they react, you know, how realistically would you react, you know, your son coming back, but he killed himself, you know, he didn't want to be alive, and now he's alive again, and how would you, you know, how would that first confrontation take place, you know, there would be, you know, you'd break down, or you'd try and crack a joke, you know, like Steve does. So I kind of took it just like, I never thought of it really as a zombie show, I thought of it as a kind of domestic drama. But basically, with a little twist of zombies.